So now let us take a look at the different types of storage mode in Power BI, and also we will see how we can use those different types of modes. Okay, we already discussed about the different types of connectivity mode. I'm talking about the connectivity mode. Storage modes are nothing but the connectivity mode. There are four main types of connectivity mode. One second, let me just mute. There are four main types of connectivity mode. One is the import connectivity mode, which we have seen when you use Excel, comma separated value files. You will have to use import because that is the default connectivity mode. You don't have direct query mode, okay, and you don't have you cannot use live mode also. So import is one of the connectivity mode. And the next one is the direct connectivity mode. This is also we have seen using the when we connected to the SQL server, Microsoft SQL server. We have explored both these options, import and direct connectivity mode, and also we discussed about what is the difference between these two. Okay, when we are supposed to use import connectivity mode, when we are supposed to use direct connectivity mode, when it comes to SQL server source system databases. Okay, and also when it comes to database, even in the case of database, these two connectivity modes are available. Okay, so then now so other one is the composite, and the last one is live. So these are the four types of connectivity modes are there. The composite is an hybrid of these two. Okay, the import and direct. Okay, so for example, you have data that are available in your Excel file, and also some data are available in SQL server. In the SQL server table, what you are doing is you import those, or you are, instead of importing the tables, you are using the direct connectivity mode to connect to your tables that are there in your SQL server. Along with that table, you are using some Excel files. The Excel file data and table data, you wanted to join it, and then you want to generate a report. So in that kind of situation, right, we call this a composite mode. It is a combination of these two. That is what composite mode. And the next one is the live mode. Okay, so we will see what is live mode little later. So what is import mode? We will start look at, we will take a deep dive in understanding the import mode. So what is the import mode? So this is the one most widely used. So this is the default one when connecting to most of the data sources, including SQL data databases, right? This is the default one. We have seen it in the last session. Okay, when you use the import connectivity mode, right? So this connection ingest or pull the data from the data source and become part of your Power BI desktop file itself. Supposing I'll just help you recollect what I did it in the last session. So what happens is when you try to import a CSV file into your Power BI desktop, right? So the data will be made part of your, once the data gets loaded into Power BI desktop, the data will become part of your Power BI desktop file itself. Okay. See, in some cases what will happen, take for example in the case of SQL queries, right? You need to write a SQL query to get answer to your business queries. Supposing somebody wants to know what is the sales in North region, you write a query. That query will find out the total sales that you made in North region. So when you well, let's say you have multiple databases. All the databases have similar tables, but the data that are stored in all the different databases are different. But you can use the same query across other databases also. Okay, the query will not change, but the data is different. But in this case, Power BI desktop, once you import the data, especially the CSV file, text file, and even the SQL server, right? It will become part of your Power BI report file itself. But in the case of SQL query, supposing you want to move the code from your development environment to test environment, your SQL query needs to be moved, and probably, right, so or in the test data they will be using something else. So you need to have both the data as well as the SQL query. In the case of Power BI desktop, once you import it, the data will become part of your Power BI desktop. You don't have to migrate both the Power BI files, or you don't have to migrate the Power BI file separately, data separately to other folder. So now the question is, why should I move the Power BI file from one folder to another folder? See, it is in the case of software development life cycle. Once you develop your report, that report will be moved to a separate folder called test or QA. The testing team will test whether your report is working as expected or as per the specifications given by the customers. Okay, hence the testing data will be different and development data will be there, different some cases. Okay, and even in the case of UAT, user acceptance test, that is a different thing. So in order to test your report, whether all the data are accurately populating, all the logics that you have used it are correctly working or not. So what they do is they will have a separate folder. In that folder, they will test it. So to move the code from your development to test folder, simply move the report file. That's all, because it has the data in it automatically, right? It has the data embedded in it. You don't have to move separately both the report as well as the data file. That is what I'm trying to say. It takes a lot of time. I don't know why it takes. Okay, so in the case of import mode, Power BI pull the data from the data source and load the data into the Power BI itself. This one you need to remember. So which means the data sits inside of the Power BI desktop file itself. Since the data is available as part of Power BI itself, it is super fast due to in-memory querying, and being columnar database, the report performance will be much faster because of in-memory querying and compression. I will explain you because you are all quite new onto programming. See, for example, okay, let me do it. Okay. So this is my Power BI report. What I do is I have a CSV file. So we have used something called sales_w04.csv file, right? This file you imported it, CSV file, into your Power BI desktop, or loaded this file into Power BI desktop. Once you load this data into Power BI desktop, this data is available as part of the report file itself. The advantage of this one is, so this data will get cached in memory. See, this data is currently available in a file. It is in your operating system, the disk, hard disk, right? Once you move it, once you load it, once this data get loaded here, the data will get, what Power BI does, it loads this into memory cache. If the data is available in memory, the performance will be much faster. When it comes to Power BI, it not only load the data into memory, but also it compresses the data. Hence, the memory requirement to cache this data will not be very high. So it is something like, let's say if I ask your husband number, if you are married, right? If I ask you your husband number, you can tell, instantly, because you know your husband, because that is there in your memory, right? That is there on top of it. Let's say if I ask a plumber contact number, and you will have to say, no, I'll have to go and check it in my diary or in my mobile phone. That is something like you need to go to the hard disk and read it. Go to the hard disk and read it, and then you need to respond to someone. That will take longer time. If you know the number on top of your head, you will say instant, hey, this is. So the same principle. If the data is available in memory, the performance will be much faster. It need not to go and read the data from the disk reading the data from the disk will take longer time. But what they did, not only they load the data in, but also while loading the data, before loading the data, they compress the data and they load the data. Hence, your memory will be, the memory consumption will be less. Let's say you have a 1 GB file size. Your sales.csv file size is, let's assume that it is 1 GB. Okay, it is 1 GB. Once you load this data into Power BI file itself, this will not load the entire, this will not load the 1 GB file into memory. Okay, so before load the 1 GB file into memory, it convert them into columnar database, and then it compresses this data and then load it into memory. So the 1 GB, for example, right, 1 GB data will get after compression, let's if the data is not 10 GB, let's 25 or 250 MB, okay, or 25 MB. Let's think that way. Okay, the 1 GB got reduced to 25 MB. Let's say even if you have 4 GB RAM, right? So if it loads 1 GB as it is into the memory, so you have 4 GB only, and 1 GB will be consumed for this data alone. Okay, and the remaining 1 GB for your operating system, other things, your memory size will get shrink. But when it comes, since the compression technique is available in Power BI, it not only loads the data in memory, but before loading it, it compresses the data and load it into Power BI desktop. Since the data is available in memory, it will be pretty faster, report. If you want to see the sales performance in the column chart or bar chart, you take any chart, the performance will be faster because the data is available in memory. That's what. So let's say if you have a table with 200 GB data in it, okay, and then if you import into Power BI, it will not consume 200 GB memory in your Power BI system. Okay, so there is something called X velocity engine. There is something called X velocity engine. Right, what it does is it convert your data into columnar store in memory technology. Okay, so the X velocity engine is nothing but it's a columnar database, and also it is in memory. Okay, it supports in memory. So what do you mean by column store? So column store in memory technology compress the data and stores in a compressed format in simple term. Right, so that's, in the case of 1 GB file, that's what I said, right? So let's it will be 10 in the case of 1 GB Excel file. When you load it, it will be it will be something like 10 MB after compressing the data, 10 MB only. Since it consumes less memory, right? So you can load more data. Other reports also can run in parallel, because the memory still is available for other reports, right? Let's say if this loads, let's say your data file size is 4 GB, and if that consumes the 4 GB, only one report can run here. Okay, so the another advantage with the import mode is, these are the things they will ask you in the interview. That's why I'm taking a deep dive. Okay, so in this case, another advantage of the import mode is connecting to any data source and bringing it to databases. So right, so that is possible in the case of import mode, and you can use all DAX functions. You have something called DAX functions, using which you can perform advanced analytics. Right, so you can schedule up to 8 refreshes a day. Don't worry, I'll explain a little later. Okay. And these are the advantages. It offers design flexibility to modelers and supports Q&A, visual, quick insights, and so on. In import mode, these are the these are things that you can do it. So leverage entire set of DAX. There is something called DAX, data analytics expression, using which you can perform advanced analytics. All the DAX functions, you can use it against the data that you loaded it into the import mode. So what are the disadvantages? The import model needs to be refreshed. This is one of the disadvantages. supposing you have the sales data is there. Okay, today's sales sales.csv file is there. You load it into Power BI desktop. Okay, this is, let's week 1 sales, and then after in the second week you are getting another sales, because every week sales data you need to load it, right? So that if you want to perform monthly sales analysis, you need to have 4 weeks data. So first week of this month, let's say you loaded this data. Second week data, when it comes in this CSV file, so what will happen is it will not get loaded automatically. You need to load it. So how will you load it? See, in this case, right, we don't use W1, W2. So we say something like sales.csv only. But here we say W2. But this data should also get appended to my week 1 and week 2 also. Okay, this is my week 1, week 2. So week 1 data last week I loaded. This week I got the second week sales. So what will happen is the newly raised orders by this week, whatever customers they ordered it, that data should also get loaded here. So for this you need to refresh this newly the new data you need to refresh it here. When you refresh it, what will happen is this data will get added along with this one. Okay, that is what data refresh. You need to schedule it. Okay, in this case. But when it comes to SQL Server, you don't have to do data refresh in the case of direct connectivity mode, because you are directly connecting to the table, sales table. The sales table, it keeps on exploding. Every week it gets appended. The data get appended. Okay, this single sales table has week 1 data in it, week 2 data also it has in it. But in this case, this file, right, the PBI file, Power BI file, right? So this one will have only week 1 data, because you loaded, let's say up to last Friday you loaded the data, last Friday. Okay, Monday to Friday you loaded last week, and this week also Monday to Friday data you need to load it here, because it is not available here. But whereas here, since you are connecting it in a direct connectivity mode using SQL Server, this table itself has last week data, this week data also in it. Hence, it doesn't require any refresh, whereas here it requires a refresh, data refresh. Okay, but you can schedule up to 8 refreshes a day only. But when you go for the premium license, the number of refreshes will be more than 8. 8. Okay, you can refresh it more than 8 times. Okay, and also you need to remember this one very well. The on disk size can go up to 1 GB only. There is a 1 GB limit per data set. That is important to Power BI. So in the case of workspace, unless the workspace is in a Power BI premium capacity. Okay, and when you see the data size, data set, the storage limit is 1 GB only. Okay, 1 GB per data set. You need to remember the per data set 1 GB only. There is a limitation, okay, in Power BI service. But if you go for Power BI Pro up to 10 GB, you can, per data set you can have. For example, you have something called customer data is there. You wanted to load into Power BI. So the customer data is, the customer data set you have 1.5 GB. That is the size of your file. So in that case, what will happen is, since it has a limitation, right? It will not load this data. Okay. So right. So in that case, what you need to do is, so there is a limitation. So you need to go for Pro license. With the Pro license, you can the size can go up to 10 GB. Yes, Abhinaya, tell me, what is your question? Yes, I unmuted you. Tell me.
Sir, you told me like in input mode, if we like we have to refresh like week 2. If we connect it to direct mode, it can be automatically stored, or we have to get a refresh mode.
See, that's what I said. There are two things. In the import mode, you have to explicitly refresh the data, because every week you are getting the data in separate files, separate files. But whereas in the case of direct connectivity mode, right, so the data is available in your single file itself. Supposing you wanted to, even in the case of SQL Server, if you want to use the import mode, right, so what will happen is, let's this one, the first week you imported the data here, right, the second week data got loaded here, but the second week data should be made available as part of your Power BI file, right? In that case, you need to load it here. That is what the import mode. Import is, see, once week 1 data, once you import it, that's it. That data will be made part of your Power BI desktop. It will not automatically go and pick up the second week data. So, in second week, third week, fourth week. So, in that case, you need to refresh it, manually, or you can schedule it. So, there is some scheduler using which you can say, so every week by Saturday by 10 a.m. go and pick up the this week the recent week data and then load it here. So it will go and pick up and it will keep get added. See, direct is different, import mode is different. Even in the case of SQL Server, you can use import as well as direct. But import, how will Power BI will know? So once you import it, week 1 data, that data will become part of this one. Right, so how will Power BI will report will know we have second week data is also available, right? So in that case, you need to explicitly schedule it. But whereas here you are in your Power BI, it is not storing it locally. In the case of direct mode, it is directly connecting here, right? Hence it will get up to date data automatically. You don't have to do any scheduling. Is that what your question? I hope I answered your question, right?
Yeah, got it, sir. So every direct mode has automatically we can we don't need to refresh
Yeah,
it.
so direct mode, it doesn't require any data refresh. Okay,
Okay.
so it's something like that. Okay,
Okay. Thank you, sir.
yeah. 1 second, please. I'm getting an office call. 1 second, I'll just. Okay, no, so I got some call from emergency call from office. So the next type of the mode is, see, in the case of Power BI premium mode, each data set limit can be up to 10 GB or above. More than 10 GB also, you can load it. Okay, it will not cause any issues. Okay, so next we will have something called direct mode. Right, this is another connection type. This is what we discussed in the last session also. It is an alternative to your import mode. So in this connection type, the data will not be stored in your Power BI model because it's a direct connection to data source. That's what we discussed. Okay, so the Power BI, what it does is it will query the data from your data source every time. For example, you have the chart. 1 second. You have a chart, something like that, right? So what will happen is you have a slicer. Okay, you have a slicer. This is a slicer. Let's say you want to say week 1, week 2, week 3 data, right? So for example, you want to see the week 1 sales performance, right? So week 1 sales performance. When you select week 1, it will show something like this is your week 1, right? In that case, what will happen is it will go and query your SQL server table in the case of direct query mode, and then it renders the report. And if you select W2, Power BI, what it does is to get the second week data, it will go and select it from this table and then it will render the chart accordingly. So Power BI will query the data from the data source every time. So what is the data source in this case? SQL Server. Every time it will query the data from the data source. This is my data source. This is the source of the data, right? So Power BI, in this case, in the case of direct query, in my Power BI desktop, it will store only the metadata of the tables. Supposing you are let's this is your sales. Let's say you have a sales table, right? The Power BI query is your sales table in your SQL server, right? This sales table, uh, the column names and the table name and the relationship, only that one will get stored in your Power BI desktop, not the data. The data is still available in the sales table only in your SQL server, but the table name, column name, and the relationship between the tables, only that one will get stored here. How many of you remember this one? Here I don't see any direct connectivity mode. 1 second, I don't remember the server name on top of my head. So here all of them are imported file. For example, if I want to get data from SQL server, this is one another thing I need to remember. This one, so it will take some time, right? Let's wait for some time because I don't remember it on top of my head, the SQL server name. It must be my desktop or my laptop server name, laptop name. Anyway, let us wait for a while. See, I clicked it more than once. It is trying to open two sessions. You don't do this way. You need to have patience. Click it only once. Otherwise, it will consume too much of memory. System will hang. Will hang. I just want to show you. Once we connect to direct query mode, and if I, let's say, using direct connectivity mode, if I connect to a specific SQL server table, what happens? You can see the table name here, but when you go to the data view, you will not be able to see the data there. So Sai, you have asked this question, right? Srinath asked this question. See, in the case of direct query mode, if I want to, where class, right? How can I write where class and all? But when we went to this data mode, we were not able to see the data. But when I went to the Power Query editor, we were able to see the data. Yes, you can ask me question now. You have some question, Srinath? Yes.
Sir, I actually tried doing it. So when I imported two tables, I that data view button was not available for itself.
Oh, in direct query mode?
Direct query mode, I imported two tables, sir.
Don't say
So
imported. Imported is a different tab.
yeah, yeah, I mean, like I added two tables.
Uh,
But during that time, the data view mode was not at all there.
it should be there now. Okay, sorry. Let me do. All I need is this server name. Okay. So anyhow, we will discuss. That's a different thing. We will see it. We'll discuss this little later. Okay. This is my sales database. See, look here. Watch here. Okay. Data mode. But do you have the data in your table? Oh, no. You are, first of all, you are saying this way in itself not visible, right? Data mode. This icon was not visible.
Yes, sir.
Oh my God. So see, that is possible only in the case of live connection. The live connection, this one will not be visible. For example, I'm trying to import some. So what table I imported? Like fax sales, right? I'm going to say fax sale SS. These are different table. Load it. So here I load the fact sale WS table from my SQL server to my Power BI desktop in direct connectivity mode. See, so that's what here we can see a blue line. You can see a blue line on top of this table. The other tables are, we don't see the blue line on top of this. So with this we can distinguish which one is CSV file, which one is which all tables are import mode, which table is direct mode. Now we will go and check the data in this fact sales. I go to the data view here.
Not perform this action.
So here fact sale, this is the one. Look, this table uses direct query and cannot be shown. Okay, it is not imported locally. That is what it says. But what it imported? It imported only the metadata. What do you mean by metadata? Data about data. See the cost, price, cost, customer ID, discount, this price, location key. It's something like simple analysis. See, you are ordering the product in Amazon. Amazon displays only the product related details, right? So for example, you want to buy a camera, it specifies all the specifications, and probably nowadays they include the video, right? So how the camera looks like. Just because they display it in their website, that doesn't mean they keep all the cameras in their warehouse, right? So just showing the image, that is kind of your metadata. You just think that way. Okay. Physically, it is not there in their warehouse.
12 p.m. movie. 12 p.m.
So that is the thing. Okay. So in the case of direct query mode, the data will not be imported. Which one will get imported? Can you all please type it in the chat window quickly? I think most of you have got diverted. I want to make sure that I want to hold all your attention, including Vishal. Vishal, can you tell me? See, your joining on time regularly is not important. Concentration is also very important. Please type it in the change. Which say data is not important. Which one got imported? The table name, column name only. If you import or if you load more than one table, so obviously if you import more than one table, there will be a relationship between the tables. So this is called your relationship. So this relationship and then table name, column name will get imported. The data will not get imported. It's something like listing a product on Amazon. Physically, they don't have stock in their warehouse, right? Their sellers will sell it there. They are the one having the warehouse. So the sellers are something like our SQL server in our case. This is the best possible way I can explain it. Okay, so you need to remember it. Please remember it, and this is very serious. If you are really serious, it's important. Okay, so hope you understood. Power BI will only store metadata of tables, but not the data in the case of direct connectivity mode. Full stop. No more confusion. So what are the advantages of direct query mode? What are the advantages? Can someone tell me? Let me see how many of you, who is having more IQ. So what is the advantage of direct query? If I, ask the Power BI, look here. See, if Amazon, same thing, right? Amazon, if you, Amazon display only the product there. What is the advantage? It doesn't store. Their storage space is less, right? In the warehouse, they are not going to keep all the products whatever they displayed on their website. Hence, the warehouse still Amazon have their own warehouse, but they don't store all the products whatever they list it on their website, right? So in that case, what will happen is they have some physical storage in their some warehouses, but some products are right. Most of the products it is there in the supplier's warehouse. So the same thing here. In the case of direct query mode, you don't have to import the data. Hence, you in your let's say in my case the laptop, right? In the laptop, I'm not going to import the data from SQL server. Hence, it consumes less space. So what is the other advantage of this one? Limited transformation. The other advantages are not limited transformation. Models don't require scheduled data refresh because you are connecting directly to the table. You are directly connecting to the table. Hence, you don't need the refresh. Week 1, week 2, all the weeks data are available in the, will get will that available as part of this table itself, right? So you don't have to refresh it week 1, week 2. It doesn't require any refresh. The disadvantage is you cannot use all DAX functions. Only specific DAX functions you can use it, and it has a limited Power Query operations. So what is Power Query? That is what the Power Query data. That is where we do all kind of data transformation, and DQ is possible for few data sources only, right? So the direct query mode is available only for few data sources. So like Microsoft SQL Server and Oracle, only specific data sources only you can leverage this direct query mode. For example, MySQL Server direct connectivity mode is not available. You have to import no matter what is the size of. See, these are the data sources that are supported in direct query mode. Oracle, Impala, IBM, SQL Server, Teradata, Snowflake. And what questions you have? Somebody live data. Srinath, yeah, live data. What do you mean by live data? Why you mentioned live data here? Anyhow, we'll discuss the live data here. Yeah, somebody raised a hand. Who raised? Abhinaya, you raised some. You raised your hand, right? What is the question? So this is what your the direct query thing, right? So this is your this is your this is your database SQL Server. Let's say in direct query mode, this is your Power BI. If you want to select the sales data, the queries will be sent here, and then the output of them only will be sent back here. Supposing your table, sales table, has 100 million data in it, okay, but the query which you are sending it, select star from sales table where region equal to north. The north region data oddly you have, out of 100 million, just 1 million data you have north. So right, instead of importing the 100 million data here using import mode, when you use direct connectivity mode, what will happen is this query will be fired against this table, and then the output of this query will be sent back to your source system. So in this case, the output is just 1 million. Sending 1 million from your SQL Server to Power BI desktop will not consume much time. What is the question? I was able to tell advantages. Okay, you was still right. So good. So you're able to understand, right, the advantages. Okay, and disadvantages are also there. About disadvantage, you cannot use all the DAX functions, because when you use the advanced DAX function, all DAX functions, you will have the flexibility to perform advanced analytics. Okay, so in that case, right, you need to some cases to overcome the limitations, you need to create a stored procedure or something like that in your SQL Server itself. That's the reason why you should be knowing how to write SQL query and SQL Server also. You should be knowing it. So far we discussed about import connectivity mode and direct connectivity mode, and we discussed the advantages and disadvantages of them. The next one is we will look at the live mode. It is even live mode also, it is a direct connection to your source system file. the data will not be stored in Power BI model like direct query mode. But the live connection supports only three data sources. The one is SSAS, SQL Server Analysis Services, SQL Server SSAS, tabular, multidimensional, and Power BI service. The advantages similar to the direct query mode. Here, it doesn't require any storage because you are directly connecting to the source. You can perform DAX transformations, okay, but here you have limited DAX functions only you can use it. When it comes to live mode, you can use majority of the DAX functions, and the disadvantage is you don't have Power Query. You cannot do any data transformation once you connect the data in live mode. You cannot modify the data, you cannot clean the data, and also you cannot combine data from multiple sources. For example, this one, let's take this one. I cannot combine data from multiple sources. What do you mean by that? For example, I have imported the data in direct mode in my Power BI desktop. See here, in this case, what did we do? See, we have a hybrid here. We have imported the data in direct mode and we have imported the data in import mode. Loaded the data in import mode. Look here, the blue colored one is the direct mode, direct connectivity mode, and rest of them are all like your import mode. So we have the combination of both the direct as well as the import connectivity mode, right? So, but when it comes to live connectivity mode, you cannot connect the data with direct connectivity, or you cannot use import mode, okay, and you cannot use different sources also. I cannot combine CSV file or SQL server in the case of live connectivity mode. If you connect to SSAS, you can connect to only SSAS. If you connect to Power BI service, you can connect to only the Power BI service. You cannot mix Excel file, SQL server table and live mode. That is the limitation. Okay, now the question is, the live connection also somewhat similar to the direct mode because it doesn't require any storage space, and data will not be stored in your Power BI model. Then what is the difference between the direct query and live connection? Okay, direct query is a direct connection to data sources, okay, like SQL Server, Oracle, IBM, okay, and the live query or live connection is a direct connection to your SSAS. With direct query, you can still configure the relationship in some cases. What do you mean by relationship? In direct query, you can create this. For example, customer ID and customer ID, you can draw a relationship. For example, if I drag and drop it, let's wait for some time. You can drag and drop here, okay, so that the customer and the customer ID from these two tables will get linked. Okay. Okay, so with direct query you can configure the relationship, but with live connection you will not find this data mode at all. The model view, okay. So if you want to create any relationship, you will have to do it in your source system table, or sorry, not source system table, in the Power BI service itself or SSAS itself. You need to create the relationship, okay. But the relationship creation is not possible in the case of live connection. No Power Query in live connection. Power Query, look here, this is what I'm talking about. Transforming the data, Power Query is not possible in live connection. In direct query, you still can do simple Power Query transformation, whereas in live connection you cannot use data transformation. What is Power Query editor? All of you please type it in the chat room. Let me see. Vishal, what is Power Query editor is used for? What is Power Query editor? All of you please type it in the chat room. Let me see if you are able to remember it. Only one reply. Abhinaya, cleaning the data. How about others? Yeah, Srinath, transforming data, very good. You can use Power Query Editor to clean the data and transforming the data. How about Tulasi? Tulasi, are you there? Cleaning, transforming, filtering, and formatting. Very good, right? So Vishal, you need to please refresh it. Okay, others, Ashish, please refresh it. Okay, right. So fine. But this Power Query editor is not available in live connection mode. So now enough. I have spoken about the Power live connection. I will show you how to do the live connection. I don't have the SSAS and SSA Tabular and analytics services. Instead, what I will do is I will give you a demo with Power BI service. Let me open a new file, because you cannot connect to live you cannot have a mix of the other files with live connection mode. If you connect to live connection mode, you can connect only to that. You cannot mix up with other types of files. Let it open other Power BI file. Let us see what happens. Okay, it took it'll take some more time. Here, let me click on the get data. Power BI data sets. Okay, look here, when I hover the cursor here, you can see the help, right? Create a live connection to data sets in the Power BI service. Create a live connection. Okay, this is what I am talking about. So I just clicked on it. It connects to my Power BI service. See, don't worry about the Power BI cloud service. I don't have access. Don't break your head. Believe me or not, what I will do is I will just, for example, so this is the report file already I published on cloud. So what you are seeing, the icon is data set. Okay, I just select this one. I'm going to import the report which I published on cloud, right? The what is that? The report file. The report file name is, I forgot it. I saw something, I selected it. I'll tell you. Give me a second. Why it shows these files? Okay. Because look here. These two tables are available as part of that one. Which one? The Power BI. I just redo it one more time, because even I forgot the thing that I used it here. Let me do one thing. I just close, because in live connection you cannot connect to more than one source system, more than one source file. I open it one more time. Please concentrate here. Can you see any table? Nothing, right? We are yet to import a table or file, something like that. So in this case, instead of using Excel or CSV file, I am going to select Power BI data sets, because this is the one, like you can use live connection. Directly you can connect to the source. So this is the one I EX retail report. This is the report I published on cloud in the past. Okay. Not only the report got published, along with this the data set also got published automatically, because when you once you load the data into Power BI, Power BI data set has both the report as well as data in it, right? So you see here it shows the data file. This symbol is data. Okay, so then for this report related data, I am going to load it here. I just clicked on it. That is getting loaded here from the cloud, Power BI cloud. I am importing it. What do you mean by Power BI cloud, guys? You need to refresh it. I could sorry to say that you are not at all studying it. Okay, so app.powerbi.com. Fat. You need to tell. So with this itself, I can evaluate, right? So how fast you can get placed. It is easy to say, once I develop a report in my Power BI desktop, and if I click on publish, that report will get published to my cloud. Look here already, I published it on my cloud, where it was showing that EX retail report we saw, right? So that one is available here. Already I published here. EX demo slicer, demo retail report. I published it. So this report along the data also got shipped automatically, right? All you need to just click this button, publish. This report will get published automatically here. But when I use Power BI in my local desktop, from a local desktop, instead of loading the data from my local laptop, the CSV files, all the things, right? So what I do is I just go to the Power BI cloud and import the file. That's what I did it, right? The EX retail report, related data I imported. That data file has 2 tables in it. Look here, when I click on it, I can see the calendar and sales table. Along with that, the relationship also available. If I want to remove the relationship, right click. If you don't have the right click, right, the right click will not work here. You cannot remove the relationship. And also you will not be able to see the data view. And Srinath, this is what I think you would have tried, right? So the data view is not available. The canvas view and this one, you cannot view the data in the data view. Okay, but when you create a visual, for example, I am going to create a chart here, and look here. So what will happen is the sales W04 category, if I drag and drop it here, and then the sales, if I drag and drop it here, look here. So this data is picked up from where? In the live connection. So with the live connection, you have the relationship tab is available. Okay, there is no option to create the relationship between the table. For example, I want to delete it. If I want to create new one, so when you keep the cursor here on this line, and if you right click on it, it is not showing anything. That means you cannot delete this relationship. Where is the other Power BI report? Look here. In this case, the direct mode and right. So if you see, look here. When I right click on it, I have 2 options: delete properties. If I delete the relationship between this table, I can delete it. If you want to create a relationship between these 2 tables or some other tables based on the common column between these 2, that is possible. But in live connection mode, you cannot see. First of all, when you right click on it, you cannot see delete, right? See here, this is not a live connection. See, in the direct connection and import mode, you can modify the relationship or you can delete the relationship between the tables. This is not available in the live connection mode. And also, if you go to the get data, you will not be able to import any other source system files like Excel file, CSV file, nothing. What Power BI says is, hey, you can, when you connect to the live connection mode, you can use the data only from your cloud. Okay, what is the advantage of this one? Can someone tell me what is the advantage of this one? Let me see how many of you. Simple common sense. Simple common sense. What is the advantage of this one? What is the advantage of this one? The advantage is you have a centralized control, right? So if you allow everyone to create the relationship between the tables, what will happen? Some people, they see, in this case we have tables, 2 tables. Assume that you have 15 tables are there, and if you allow the user to delete or modify the relationship between the tables, what will happen? Mistakenly, if they change the relationship, and if they delete the relationship, this link, the report will not show the accurate result. Why should I allow the people to delete the relationship, right? Why should I allow the people to delete the relationship between the tables?
Not perform this action.
Okay, so in that case, we are restricting the users, not to modify the relationship or delete the relationship between the tables. And also, as a developer, you don't have to worry about which column should I link it. If you have 15 or 20 tables, you don't have to create the relationship. You don't have that headache. A data modeler will create the relationship and they'll give you plain vanilla. Hey, everything is readily available. You don't have to break your head. We create the relationship on your behalf, and the data, you don't have to worry about where should I download calendar table, where this file is available, where this file is available. In the case of get data, if you want to import the CSV file, you go and search in folder. You should be knowing which folder. In case of SQL server, you should be knowing the SQL server database name, SQL server name. You don't have that headache. It's all pre-packaged, the connections and all. Okay, all you need to do is, okay, the relationship, everything is available. Just go and understand the relationship, and go to the report canvas and start focus on creating the reports dictated by, or they create the reports based on the requirements specified by the customer. It's something like ready-made, ready mix, right? If I want to eat idli, rava idli, ready mix is available. You go and buy a ready mix, okay, you can prepare rava idli. Something like jamun, if you want to eat jamun sweet, right? Everything is readily mixed, everything. Only thing is you need to prepare it, right? That's all. So it's something like ready mix. You don't have to worry about it. Worry about the connection, which what is the server name, what is the table name, and which folder it is available. Everything is already defined in that report. Okay, EX retail report file, everything we created it. When we share this user, so in general, right, we use it like this: import CSV file, everything we import in the one file, and that file we will ask the developers to import it using the Power BI data sets. Okay, PBIDS. So this is called your Power BI data set. Okay, so sorry, just give me a second. Let me have some water. So this is called your Power BI data set. It is also called as PBIDS files. PBIDS, Power BI data set. Okay, the data is already available in live, right? So that's what I said. In live connections, right, these connections are already pre-packaged for the end user. You don't have to worry about the server name, database name, folder name. Okay, and what are the advantages of this one? So this file itself stores the connection settings, right, the path, database, location. It makes it easier to share the other report developers within your organization, right? So you don't have to worry about the connection, all them thing. And secondly, because these file types are easier to share, they are really useful for new report designers. So they, those may not be familiar with the data source that are available in your organization, or they may not know exactly what source paths to use, right? So in that kind of situation, this kind of files are very much handy. So it is, you will be up and running as soon as you receive this. You don't have to worry about creating the data model, all the things. But if you know how, but you should be knowing how to create the data model, everything. But in real time, what they do is they want to have a centralized control. Let's say I know how to create data model, everything is fine, but if you allow me to delete this relationship, or if you allow me to modify for example, if I keep the cursor here, on the left side you can see the date column got highlighted. On the right side, which column got highlighted? Order date. Date and order date between these two tables got linked with this line. This is called relationship. Okay, relationship between the tables. But here, mistakenly, if I am allowed to change the relationship, what will happen? If I delete it, and if I create the relationship between this and this, what will happen is you cannot do data filtering. So to have a centralized control, right? So you have something like this. Okay. So what is the analogy for this? Can someone tell me some analogy for this? Not everyone can do everything, right? So something like this, right? So in a hotel, right, only cook has every privilege or every right to put salt and with the proper proportion, right? Salt and the chili, right? So all the ingredients, he is the only person have the right to put with the appropriate proportion. If you allow all the people, say let's say you are in the buffet system, right? If everyone is go and take the salt and mix the ingredients in the gravy, what will happen? Right? It will not give the desired taste, right? Or the expected taste. So only the cook, like the data modeler, they are the one supposed to design the table model. So what column and which columns to be mapped, or we need to create a link between which columns between the tables. Okay. Yes, Srinath. What question you have?
So you said that the relationship is not editable, but if we double click on that relation, I'm able to change cardinality, I guess.
What is that? Really, if you click on it, what is that? You cannot click on it. Even if you click on it, it will not open. Let's see, manage relationship. This icon itself disabled.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So either you can delete it. When you double click on it, it will open the manage relationship. But that itself got disabled. Right. So one thing, the three things you need to do. So the current different file and say different file. Why should we create the relation between these two tables? So Tulasi, that's what, right? We will discuss that in the as part of the data model. We have separate column. This one we have a separate session for data modeling. Okay, in that case, so we have to create the relationship. Only then you can use the calendar table to filter this table. Without this, you cannot filter the table. So what do you mean by filtering? I'll just explain you now itself, but it is too early to explain anyhow. What do you mean by filtering? For example, instead of using date and calendar, right, I use some other example so that you will be able to understand. I have a category table, I have a sales table. The category table, I have something called cat ID and category name. Category name, these two columns are there, along with the data is also there. But in the sales table, you have something called order ID, order date, and you have something called cat ID and product product key, something like this. Cat ID and cat ID you create it. But in this table you will have unique record for each category. Listen very carefully. Okay, you have something called APP01. This is the category ID, this is the data. Okay, and category name is appliances. You have another column, another record called tech. This is called your technology. So here also in the sales table you will have APP01, not the appliances. You will have tech value stored here. Instead of storing the technology, store the corresponding category ID only. Fine. Okay. Now the question is, why this relationship needs to be created. So as I told you, once you store APP01 in this table, it should not be repeated more than once. There should not be any duplicate. Got it? There should not be any duplicate. Okay, there is a one-to-many relationship. So okay, and in this table, This is a sales transaction table, right? The many people, let's more than one customer, they purchased products under appliances. Hence, you will have duplicate of APP01. You have duplicate of technology. For example, the sales table data, I'll just, because of space problem, I'll say order ID is something like ORD001, and order date is 26 June 2021, and the category ID is APP01. This customer, let's say I have a customer name is Rajesh or Raj, and Raj has ordered some product under APP01 appliances. He purchased appliances, and product, what is this? Product key. Product key is something like, let's say he purchased fan. Appliances, right? Fan. Let's assume that, or let's you have something like cooker. The cooker falls under appliances. Raj purchased cooker. Like Raj, many people would have purchased a cooker, right? Let's say you have something called Ramesh. Ramesh also purchased cooker. But the category for cooker product is APP01, the same thing. So this one repeats more than one time. But he purchased on 20th June 2021, and his order number is order 080008, something like that. Okay, but the category ID repeats more than one time in sales table, whereas in this table it has to appear only one time. So what happens is, by default, Power BI, if you want to find out the total sales we made in cooker or this category, right, you have to listen, your sales value is 10,000 or 11,000, 22,000, something like that, right? So in this order, this is sales we made. In this order, this is sales we made. Okay. So what happens in this case? So the first record will get selected. So filtering, this is what filtering concept, remember it. First, what it does is the Power BI, it goes to the category table, because it's a one directional relationship. The category ID is flowing from here to in this direction. Look here, this is the arrow. Okay. So what will happen? First category table, first record, it goes and select this one, and then it goes and checks in this table for the corresponding APP01. So in this table, the APP01 is available more than one time, right? So more than one time. So these two records will get selected. So for the corresponding APP01 in this table, it will go and check how many number of records are available for APP01 in the sales table. That's why I mentioned this is a many side, this is a one side. Please try to understand, even 10th standard student will be able to understand, okay? Right? So first it goes and checks, okay, this record, what are the corresponding records are available. It select all the records that are relevant to APP01. Supposing you want to find out the total sales in APP01, it will it will sum these values. Similarly, technology. Next, once this is done, okay, for this, let's 22,000 and 11,000, 33,000. In APP01, we have made 33,000 sales. And technology, right? Similarly, technology, you have similar tech and tech, multiple customer, 3 customers, they order technology. Let's this guy orders 10,000, 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. So when it goes to the second record, what happens? It automatically goes and checks the corresponding value of the technology in this one. It highlights all this, selects all the things, and then it applies the sum on this. See, in my case, I want to do sum. I want to see the total sales. So 30,000 in technology. This is called filtering. Relationship. So in Power BI, if you say relationship, once you create the relationship between the two tables, right? That means, this is a relationship, nothing filtering. Why we are creating the relationship? So when the Power BI goes to the first record, it automatically goes and checks the corresponding records that are relevant to APP01. And if I want to do counting, automatically it does this one. Okay. If you have 100 categories, automatically it goes one after another, and then the corresponding records, it goes and checks, it applies the sum, and for each and everything, 100 categories, it shows only the total sales. Got it? This is what filtering. Got it? Sulsi, are you able to understand? If you are not able to understand, tell me, not a problem. Okay. Vishal, how about Vishal? So Vishal and others, right, you need to watch my video regularly and practice it. Okay. Until you get to understand, please watch it. Got it? Okay, fine. So this is the filtering. See, it's simple if I explain it in Excel, right? In the Excel file filtering. For example, I have something called Excel. Look here, city data is there. I just open it. This is my Excel file. If I ask you to filter the state CA, what you will do? You select this one and then you go to data window and then you filter. You click on filter, right? In Excel. Okay, then when you click on this one, state, right? You can see this symbol. When you click on this down, the list of values, and if you unselect other things, this is what you are filtering it, right? But you are going manually and selecting. Supposing you wanted to see total population each state, what you have to do? You need to filter CA first, and then you need to add these two things, and then you need to go and go to New York, and then so New York only one record is there, fine. But if you have more than one record, what will happen? Look, you need to add these two things, right? You need to select each and every state, and then you need to apply the sum. When it comes to Power BI, when you create the relationship, it goes automatically to each and every state, and then it applies the sum. Okay, you don't have to do it manually. That is the beauty of Power BI. You don't have to go to each and every state, and you don't have to select this one, and then you'll have to add it. It's a painful thing, right? So what Power BI does is, let me just clear the filter. So first it goes to the, listen, you have another table called, listen very carefully. In this batch only I am teaching they're very at the very root level. Okay, utilize this opportunity instead of wasting time in watching other YouTube videos. So let's you don't have population, state and city. You have something called CA. Okay, I just go and remove city here. State, okay, CA. You have another table called state table. In that you have only one record is there for each state. Okay, even though the states are appearing more. It's a transaction file. This is your master file. You just think that way. What happens is in Power BI, this is your calendar table. This is your sales table. You just think that way. So what will happen is when it since there is a one to many. This is a one. This is a many, because each state appears only one time. But here the state value is appearing more than one time. So what will happen is here, since you created the relationship between these this table to this table using state column, because the common column between these two tables is state, right? You assume that this is separate table, this is separate table. Okay, relate with my Power BI thing. Okay, so what will happen is, first thing is this one will get highlighted, CA. This one gets selected. This is a one side. Okay, this is a calendar table. Okay, in your calendar table, first date will get selected, and then the corresponding CA related records are how many number of CA records are there, right? So it goes and selects automatically the corresponding. It highlights this one. First it comes here. First record CA. What are the corresponding records are there in this table? This is many side, because you have multiple times the states are available. This is one side. And second, it comes to this table, and then the same table, New York, and it goes and checks how many number of only one record is there. Next it goes to the WA automatically, and then it goes and select this one and goes and it does the lookup. Okay, how many number of W's are there? Okay, this one, right? So this is the thing. Okay, so here if I put the arrow, this is related to the CA, and these two records, and these two records are related to this one, WA, and this one is related. This is what you are filtering. In order to do the filtering automatically, you need to create a relationship between these two tables. So the state and state columns are common between these two tables. Hence, you need to drag and drop these two columns. That is what we did. So in this case, the date column in this table and order date, right? These two are common between these two tables. That's why we drag it. So if you see, this is one side, this is a many side. The same thing is applicable for any other table. Okay. The state in this case, this is a transaction data. Because each state you have multiple cities, right? So you have each city you have different population. So end of the day, I need a report wherein tell me each state how many. So this is what my reporting requirement. My manager is asked me this one. My manager wants to see in CA and New York and WA. In each state, I don't care about the number of cities in each state. You tell me how many number of people are living here. He said, look here, what it does is the sum is 4.9, right? So 4.9, and then New York is 8.5, only 3 records. He wants to see only these 3 records, but in this table you have multiple records. He doesn't care about this. This is 0. All you need is this is the one. See, in this case, we have, look here, in this case we have only 2 records. In real time scenario, you have for WA you have 1 million record, for CA you have 5 million record, New York you have 10 million records. So what happens is it makes your job very simple. First it goes to state table and it first record and the corresponding records goes and picks up, filters it, and then it does the count or sum, depends on the aggregation function that you use it, and then it puts it here, and second it goes here. Since we have only 1 record, okay, next it goes here. Oh, WA, for this WA there are 2 records are there. What is the total population? 0.9. End of the day, this is the report your manager wants to see. He doesn't care about the table relation, but you should be knowing what is the relationship. In order to enable this automatic filtering, what you needed, you need to create a relationship between the tables. Hope I answered your question, Tulasi. Okay, now so far we discussed about the import mode and direct query mode and live mode, and the advantages and disadvantages of all of them. Okay, now the question is, which one is faster, direct query or live? Live mode is faster than your direct query mode. Okay, and when you compare to import and direct query, which one is better? Import is better, because when you import the data locally into your desktop, let's assume that you have 2 laptops. In one laptop you install SQL Server. In your current laptop, in the laptop where you work currently, right? That is where you install your Power BI desktop. If you want to connect to the SQL Server, you need to go to the next laptop. How do you go to the next laptop? Because the 2 laptops you connect in a LAN, right? So you need to go to that laptop. You don't have to go there. So you need to specify the SQL Server name. It will go automatically there and connect to that table, right? So that is the thing. Okay, that is what is going to happen. In that case, what will happen? Direct query, it has to go there and connect it, and then it has to do it. But instead of that, if you import it locally, all the tables are data are available locally. The data will get loaded in memory because of the X velocity engine, right? X velocity is one of the feature that is the driving force behind Power BI. Okay, so behind the scene, that is the engine. Import, what it does is it loads the imported data into memory, that too in the columnar format. We'll discuss this in detail about the X velocity later point. Don't worry. Okay. So the import mode is faster than direct query because the data is available locally in your laptop. If you have to use direct query, what will happen? You'll have to go to the next laptop. You just think that way, okay? And then you bring in the data to your, and then you need to go and fire the query there. But instead, you're importing the data. Since the data is available locally, it will be faster. It's something like the food is available in your kitchen, in your home kitchen. If the food is direct query, is something like you go and buy have a food in a hotel directly. Instead of cooking it here, you go to a hotel and have it. So going hotel will take time, right? Depends on your network bandwidth, the data volume, everything, right? So but data volume, the data volume is very high. In that case, direct query is the best way of connecting it. That is the one is faster. See, this is a tricky thing. They will ask you the question of these three connectivity mode: import, direct connection mode, and live mode. Which one is faster? So between direct query and live mode, live is faster than your direct query. But between import and direct query depends. If the data volume is less, you can use import. The data volume is very high, you can use direct query. That's all. Next one is the composite. With composite, you can bring in data via both direct query and import, or direct query from multiple sources in live data set. Direct query from multiple sources and not the live data set. Okay, you cannot mix up, there is a mistake here. Okay, so in the case of live connection, so you cannot add any other table, you cannot load any other table. Simply you need to import the data from your cloud, Power BI cloud. That's all. Whatever the data that are available, see, these two tables are available in that table, right? That report, that data, right? The cloud. So only this you can use. You cannot use any other tables than this table. Okay, these tables. Whereas in the case of composite models, you can use both the import as well as. So this is the thing. Composite model is tables convert import or direct query or dual storage, support for multiple sources. Okay, Excel file, or you can use data flow in Power BI. We'll explain it later. Web data, social data, everything you can, you can import it. You can mix up Excel and database and cloud the web data also you can mix up. But live connection you cannot do any mix up. Okay. Fine. It's already 10:30. Okay. So what I am going to do is I am going to wrap up the session now. So what we will do is upcoming Tuesday we will continue the session. In the meanwhile, please watch my video. And watching my video is not sufficient. Remember it. Keep watching it, more than once until you become comfortable, and then you start practicing.